What's up, guys? Welcome to a brand new episode of the Fit Women's Weekly podcast. I'm going to keep this intro very short and sweet so we can jump right into this interview that I have with Tara Dower. For those of you guys who do not know who Tara is, she just completed the Appalachian Trail in the fastest known time, or what's also known as the FKT. We talk about that a little bit in the episode, so I wanted to make sure you guys knew what FKT stood for. Not only did she beat all the women's records, but she now holds the overall record for men or women by over 13 hours. This woman is incredible. I'm so excited that I got to sit down with her, talk about her adventure, talk about her upcoming goals, and I think that you guys are gonna get a lot out of this. It's all about mindset. The mind is an incredible thing and its ability to make our body move and do things that we don't think is possible. So let's go ahead and jump into this episode. If you haven't already, make sure that you subscribe to the podcast so that you don't miss out on future episodes, and head over to fitwomensweekly.com so you can learn more about me and my training and how I can help you hit your goals and go beyond what you think you're capable of doing. Let's get into it. I just want to chat. I want to figure out what the heck got into your head to do what you just did, which is just incredible. Congratulations. So what kind of sparked it? But yeah, first off, where are you? You said you're staying with a friend, but where's your normal home base?
Yeah, it's in Virginia Beach. That's where all my stuff is. I'm kind of on the move a lot of the year, but mainly like Virginia Beach is where if I was to go back to one place, it would be there.
Virginia Beach. Are
Right
you on
now
the
I'm in
move just
Wood,
because of
Colorado.
because of trails?
Yeah, so my friends offered me their place on top of a mountain in Colorado to like relax as they're like doing this huge trail. And so I took them up on it because Virginia Beach is not like my favorite place. It's kind of like it's a little like suffocating, and I tend to process things better and do better in nature, and this is like the perfect place.
Well, just out of curiosity, if you're from Virginia Beach, what got you into nature? What got you into hiking and trail running?
Yeah, well, I've moved all over the place for I've been on the move for since I really graduated college in 2016. So I haven't really had like a stable home base for long. Um I moved there like 2 years ago, but before that, again, just was on the move. But I grew up in, if we're gonna look back, like I grew up in Wake Forest, North Carolina, and I mean, parents were definitely into hiking. There wasn't like an abundance of trails
Mm-hmm.
out in Wake Forest, but I guess what started it all, like if I was to, you know, looking at my own
Psychoanalyze.
desires,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, looking at my own desires to hike and, what got me to do it on my own instead of like my parents making me go on hikes was watching a documentary in 2012 about the Appalachian Trail and realized I wanted to do something really cool after college, and that's like where kind of the fascination with like backpacking and hiking came from.
That's really cool. So apparently, so you tried to hike the AT the first time in 2017. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And how'd that go?
Yeah, it didn't go great,
Mhm.
as you've probably read, or listened to, like, I've kind of I think this story is really, really important to tell, and I've told it on pretty much every podcast that I've done since I finished the AT this time,
Mhm.
because I think it's important to show that there's, like, progression and, like, stories. Like, oftentimes you just see, like, these success stories, and
Right.
those are great and inspiring in their own way, but I think, like, for me, it's cool to see somebody who's, like, come from literally the bottom and, from that story. I mean, I'll just tell it right now. In 2017, I tried to through hike the Appalachian Trail after graduating college in 2016, and then working a little bit and making enough money to then go on this adventure that I was hoping would last like 6 months and get me to Mount Katahdin in Maine. Um, and I don't think I was mentally preparing that much for this adventure, and I went out there in 2016 to through hike, and my motivations really looked like I wanted to check mark. I want to have that check mark of being a thru hiker. And so the entire time I was out there for 8 days. And the entire time I was out there, I was so focused on the end being Katahdin, which was 2,200 miles away at that point. So it's very far away. And every day I'm focused on that. And I'm not enjoying the journey and the adventure and the community and the culture and, the scenery in Georgia. Like I'm so far from Maine and I'm so focused on, what I'm so focused on the end goal. And so there's more to like what happened there too. Like I did have an amount of anxiety, like leaving family and like the comfort of my home. I wasn't as familiar with being on trails
And
as
you're
I am now.
22 and by yourself and going on, like my husband and I hike a lot in Western North Carolina. And just the few times I've hiked those trails by myself, it can be very scary and very much like in your face of, oh crap, I'm out here by myself. So to
Yeah,
do
yeah.
that night after night, it's very much something you have to like adjust to and come to terms with.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I was like lucky in that I was in the middle of through hiker season, so I saw a lot of people and I made like some friends out there towards like the last like 3 days and hiked with them a bit. But for some reason, I just felt like this impending doom.
Mhm.
And it got to day 8 and or day 7, I went to sleep. And then the next morning I woke up and I had chest pains and couldn't get my breathing, couldn't get it under control. I was hyperventilating and I had a migraine. It was very much a physical manifestation of like a panic attack. And it scared me because I didn't really know what that looked like. And I left trail and went to a doctor and he's like, that's anxiety, that's a panic
Mhm.
attack. So I decided to get off trail and, permanently for that year and just figure out what was going on and how to I did not enjoy that experience, obviously. And I wanted to figure out like what happened there. Um, and I think it's like, it was definitely a failure. And I remember my mom always telling me like, it's not a failure, it's like a journey and maybe you'll get back there, maybe you won't, but this will teach you something. And she was always saying that to me. Um, when, I was in this like despair, like that was for 4 years in college, like that was the goal at the end of, graduating. Like the goal was to through hike and I told everyone in my life and then it didn't happen and it felt like a big failure, but looking at it now, it feels like a big full circle moment,
Mhm.
where I am at this moment
Sure.
being, the fastest person to complete the AT.
When you were coming off of it and then you made that decision to go back and try it again, do you think that having failed it and staying on there for 8 days almost gave you a new purpose? Because that first time, like you said, all you were thinking about was getting to the end. And now you
Yeah.
had this almost new appreciation for every day you made it past day 8, right? You're like, I'm farther than I made it before. Did that also help you appreciate the journey a little bit more?
Yeah, no, you're completely right because in 2019 when I decided to go back, I worked on my anxiety. I worked on like my motivations, I worked on like those triggers and like what really happened. I like searched myself.
Mhm.
And in 2019 I was really focused on the experience and, spending time with like the community and, you know, entrenching myself in the culture of the Appalachian Trail. And so, 5 months and 10 days later, when I finally got to Mount Katahdin and I had all these friends around me that I made out there and I was used to this lifestyle, I was actually like, oh, dang, now it ends. Like my
Right.
lifestyle, this journey that I went on that was like so meaningful is now over. And instead of like looking at, 2017 when my whole goal was to get there, now I'm there and I'm like, oh, like this, no, I don't want it to end.
Right.
It was definitely, it was definitely a different experience and I'm glad I kind of searched myself and went back out there and tried again.
Mhm. And you got the name Candy Mama during that trip, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so Candy Mama just comes from the fact that I ate a lot of candy. People like wondered if I just shared my candy, but no. I didn't share my I just ate a lot and I really didn't brush my teeth that often. Sometimes in through hikes, you just kind of like you forget to do it. I don't know. Maybe I'm projecting on a lot of other people, but I forgot to brush my teeth often. And um, by the time I finished the through hike, went to the dentist. Dentist said I had 6 cavities that I had to
Oh,
get
wow.
filled. Yeah, so many. And then, I mommed everyone too. That's the mama part, is I just mommed everyone to a fault, and it was a little overwhelming for some people. So I've definitely, calmed that side of me. I'm not so much the mom of the group anymore.
Yeah, you got to learn as you go, right?
Yeah,
I think that's
yeah.
awesome. So you had that experience, which also like you got to experience the trail, the journey, see what it's all about. So then what made you a few years later, what is that, 5 years later, go, okay, I had it, taking my time, enjoying it day by day, seeing the sunrises, seeing the sunset, to then go back almost to your original goal from 2017 of point A to point B, let's go.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that was, you know, it the goal came from doing, then, from 2019, I got into bigger FKTs. I got into FKTs doing a trail quicker. I got into ultra marathons pretty heavily, and I got sponsored pretty quickly. And I was really thankful for all those opportunities. But I kind of wanted to bring it back to what started this entire career. I call it my trail career. It's so much more than like an athletic career. I think trails just in general, that's just like my lifestyle. And so, I wanted to bring it back to the start and see what I could do on the AT, as far as like going fast, and also like going southbound instead of going northbound. I wanted to see like the trail in a different way. So I think like, I did have, my goal was pretty set on getting from point A to point B, like you said, in the fastest time. I was pretty dead set on that, but I was also so excited to just experience the trail and the community again. It was twofold. Obviously, like, obviously, if I had to choose one or the other, I would be like more competitive and I would be trying to get the record. But luckily, I was able to have like a really meaningful experience this year as
Mhm.
well.
What was kind of like the process of even starting to prepare yourself for that? Did you use trail runs as like training runs to get through this? And kind of like if your first time going through, you're eating all the candy, I'm going to guess your fueling looked a lot different this time around.
Gosh, yeah, yeah, completely different. Yeah, so part of being a, professional athlete, it's like every day you're training and you're kind of um you're just out there on the trails. That's like my main race is out on trails, and it's 100-mile distance.
Mhm,
So really I was just training every day, and I thought, the race I was training for, I did a race about, I think it was 3 to 4 weeks before the AT, and the race that I was training for, I thought that would translate really well to the ATs. For instance, the Appalachian Trail or like the PCT. They kind of work into their fitness.
mhm.
Oh, is my connection
It,
okay?
yeah, it went off and on, but your audio part was fine.
Okay, cool. Yeah, sometimes in the mountains it can get a little
Yeah.
fuzzy. Just let me know if I need to repeat anything.
No, you
Um,
sound great.
okay, awesome. So yeah, oh, where was I with that? Oh yeah, so I was training for Hard Rock 100, which is, the country's toughest, hardest 100. Some people say it's the hardest 100 miler. And so I thought, all the time at elevation, because you're going up the San Juans and the San Juan Mountains of Colorado, so you're really high up. I thought the altitude um, acclimation might translate really well to
Mhm,
going back down to like 5,000 feet in Maine. And then also, I was just doing a lot of time on feet. So I didn't really like train specifically for the AT. And like I mentioned before, a lot of people who do these long FKTs, they kind of get work into their fitness.
mhm.
And I thought I would just kind of get into that fit. I would get fit as I was out there.
Yeah.
Sorry. And also the cats are, that's a good, could you hear the cats in the background?
No.
Oh
They're
no.
chit-chatting.
Yeah, they're having a conversation down there.
Oh, that's funny. I
Cute.
have a cat somewhere who would probably, if she heard, she'd start talking too.
It adds a lot to the podcast.
Exactly. It's just character. Like I said, we're just two women having a chit chat.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, I thought like I would just like work into the fitness, and it's kind of hard to replicate, this type of journey it's obviously like something you could do is go out there for like a week and do day after day after day.
Mhm.
You can see like how you feel day after day, but you can't really replicate unless you do a long trail. You can't really replicate like six being out there for 6 weeks
Right. And
going.
there's a training plan. There's not like couch to 5K for running or trying to take on the AT.
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of a unique experience.
How did you do at Hard Rock?
I did well. It was a really rough race for me, but the end result I was really proud of. I had a lot of GI distress, eating. I'm not used to running at high altitude, so the race is run on average about at 10 to 11,000 feet. And so I'm not really used to that sort of
Mhm.
that sort of fueling during running, at that high of altitude. So I ended up not eating so well, not having the proper nutrition, and threw up so much, and
Oh.
TMI, but yeah, I felt like I was running on like 0 calories on my body, and my body was just like eating itself. At one point when I was going up Handy's Peak, I felt my kidneys, and I was like, this is a little concerning. I feel my body. I got fourth. I got fourth woman. I was passed by about four ladies going up Handies, and was had to like recuperate because I really had nothing in me. And then after that, I really worked hard what was that, the last like 30 miles to get back to fourth place. And I was happy with the result. And it's a hard race. And for my first hard rock, I'm pretty proud of it. I want to go back, but yeah, it was a hard one.
That's crazy. How the hell did you get your body to recover in 3 weeks? What's your
Oh,
training secret?
yeah, the goal was just to keep fitness up. Like, I mean, I wasn't like too focused on like getting out there ASAP after the race. It takes a lot to recover from a 100 miler. So I
Mhm.
really just, kind of kept a little bit of fitness. I was just sustaining that fitness. Um, but I was really just trying to listen to my body. So as much sleep as possible,
Mhm.
and just eating whatever I wanted, and
Mhm.
trying to also gain some weight for the AT was important. So I was eating a lot of ice cream.
That makes sense. I definitely wanna talk more about the AT, but the last question, kind of generic, is, me being an East Coaster and hiking a lot on this side, and I've been a little bit on, uh, the west side in Colorado, but I feel like people don't like, when they think of the Appalachian Mountains, right? We're kind of like, "Oh, they're just so small compared to, let's say, the Rockies." But then when you get up there, one thing that I've learned about the mountains on this side is it's from A to B and it's just up, right? Whereas like West Coast, the big mountains, you have more of this gradual
Uh,
incline, which I've
yeah.
come to love over time. So between the two, which are your favorites? Are you a West Coast hiker or do you prefer the East Coast?
I think they both have like I think they're both so special. Obviously, like I am an East Coast girl, and I will forever say that the East Coast is harder. Like it is harder.
Right.
Like you said, there's
Yeah.
no switchbacks. You go straight up, you go straight down, then you go straight back
Right.
up again. And there's so much elevation gain. And when you go up, there's no reward. There's not really like a big view like you'd get
Right.
in Colorado.
'Cause there's still trees on the top of our mountain.
There's
Yeah.
still trees. Yeah, there's still trees. But all that to say, like it's super rewarding. And I love the trails out east. I think there's so much biodiversity, and
Mhm,
they're just special. They just feel like home to me.
mhm,
But on the West Coast, like or in the West in Colorado, they are beautiful mountains. They're hard because of the altitude,
right.
but the climbing isn't necessarily like the most difficult thing. The trails are pretty well
Mhm.
maintained. Not that the East Coast isn't, it's just oftentimes like you're running over rocks or roots, and
And
um
leaves that you can't see the roots a lot of
yeah,
times.
yeah. And the West Coast is very special. Those mountains are just like epic. Like the San Juans are some of my favorite mountains in Colorado, and they're just incredible and epic and so rewarding. And um, yeah, I think they both have uh, their special qualities. But if I was to pick one mountain range, like the Appalachian Mountains, or like, for instance, like the San Juans, if I was to pick one range to hike for the rest of my life, I'd probably pick the Appalachian Mountains. And that might change day to day, but man, it's just it like I said, it just feels like home.
Have you ever hiked the Black Mountains, like Mount Mitchell area?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
our favorite. I mean, and that is one of the few places that there is that view at the top. You know, you get to the crest and you're just in awe.
Yeah, it's very epic up there. And once you get up to where it just starts smelling like
Yes,
it really
Christmas.
starts, yeah, it smells like Christmas.
Yes.
It's you get so high up. It's what is it? It's the highest peak on the this
East of the
side of the
Mississippi.
Mississippi.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's so cool. You get so high up. Is that like six? It's gotta be like six,
6, 8.
7 or 6, 8. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's epic up there.
And it
But
makes us,
yeah.
we were actually just there last month, and for everything now that's happened with the hurricane, just breaks our heart because it's not there anymore.
Yeah.
Um, but
Has do you know what happened with that like area? Like I know that like Asheville is not doing great, but did they have a lot of blowdowns and
So Black Mountain, which is the base of Mount Mitchell, the campground where the trail starts, it's
yeah.
gone. The bridge, the
Oh
road that goes there
God.
is completely gone. I don't know if you're familiar with Albert's Lodge, which is like right at the base when you're turning to come onto
Mm,
South Toe to go there. They've been doing a really good job of keeping people updated. So I know they've started to rebuild that road, but
yeah.
that part of, and you know how the lookout area is actually on the parkway, that
Yeah.
part of the parkway is closed most likely at least until September 2025.
Wow.
So yeah, we feel so blessed that we were able to be there just last month.
Yeah.
But
Wow. Oh
yeah,
my
are you
God.
familiar with Sean, who does like Run Bum, who does
Yes. Yeah.
okay. So he's been
Yeah.
posting a lot. He went and did a big cleanup and stuff of that
Oh,
area too. So I don't know
yeah.
what's gonna come, but we
Goodness.
feel like
September
y'all
2025.
listening, if you ever get to go check it out, it is an area that deserves so much love and
Yeah.
appreciation.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, devastating.
Yeah. But let's turn it into talk about happy stuff. But I figured you'd probably know that area too. If you have you done Quest for the Crest?
I haven't done Quest for the Crest, no.
Oh, you should absolutely do that. Well, I don't know when they're going to be able to do that again, but
Yeah.
it's basically going
Yeah.
up that 3 times.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I've done Hellbender, so I've gone up to Mount Mitchell and on that race and I've done it in the Mounds of Sea Trail. Just
Mhm.
such a special trail. It's so
Yeah, it really
cool.
is. Yeah. So what made you decide that you wanted to go in so you went this time around from north to south?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I
what
went
made you decide to do that route versus going the from south to north?
Yeah, so there's a couple like schools of thought with people who do these FKTs going Sobo or Nobo, and just like basically like for me and for people who choose to go Sobo, um, personally for me, I just wanted to get the hardest part of the trail done with the soonest. I want to get it done and
Uh-huh.
have it behind me
Yeah.
because Maine and Southern Maine and New Hampshire are just incredibly difficult trail. Um, I don't know if you've ever hiked in the White Mountain National
Mm-mm.
Forest. No? Oh my goodness. It's gorgeous. It's amazing. Some of the most beautiful mountains. And it does have a lot of rewarding climbs, but it's very technical, straight up, straight down, and most
Mhm.
of the times they're on these like precarious rocks. Um, it's pretty tough terrain. I don't know how to explain it beyond like just pure
Just
difficulty.
grit.
So I just wanted to get that over with, and I also, yeah, I also wanted to see the trail in a different direction as well. So I saw it northbound, and I kind of wanted to see it in a different way. And then for people who decide to go northbound, their school of thought is like, okay, I'm going to work up to this fitness of getting to Maine and New Hampshire or New Hampshire and Maine.
Yeah.
By the time I get there after what is it like 1900 miles,
Mhm.
I'm gonna get there and I'm gonna be in the best fitness, best Appalachian Trail fitness, and so they'll get through it pretty quickly. For me, I wanted to get it done with because I knew in my head I would always be thinking like, oh my gosh,
I got this.
it's coming up.
Which is probably for some people when it's your first time, ignorance is bliss. You having done it before, and finishing at that area, that's like, people always say if you have a 5-course meal, you'll forget the 4 courses before and just remember your last course. So if you
Yeah.
finish there the last time, that's what's in your mind. And so of course you're like, oh my God, I have to do that again. So just
Yeah.
get it over with
Oh,
from the
absolutely.
get-go.
I remember in 2019 just being like wrecked after the whites, and they're so beautiful. It was a great experience, but I remember just like my legs when I got to southern Maine, I remember my legs just being jello, and like, my ankles are so weak, like they would just turn so easily. They're
Mhm.
just weak ankles. Um, and that's my experience. So I knew it was coming, and I did not want to experience that at the end of this epic journey.
Right. And I'm also curious when you say like, oh, your people think they'll be in the best shape by the time they get towards that end, maybe in terms of like their endurance health, if they were at optimal health. But when you're going that far, like you mentioned, you put on weight before you started because you're going to lose weight,
Mhm.
throughout the trail, no matter how much you eat. Everybody I know loses 40 to 50 pounds a lot of times on this trek.
Yeah.
And when you lose weight, that is your body literally dying, right? So you can't be at optimal fitness by the
Yeah.
end. Plus your foot health. I mean, we've seen pictures of your feet. Tara, they do not look good. And so for a lot of
No.
people, they're like, I'm going to be in the best shape. Well, technically, you probably could be, but are you really by the time you're at the end?
Yeah, like it's kind of a cool phenomenon. Your body gets used to like the day after day, and
Mhm.
your body knows what to do, especially towards the end of this journey. But you're so right. Like I remember the last like 300 to 400 miles of this journey. It was just, I'm tired. It's that compounding exhaustion, and I'm exhausted. And being on those trails when you're exhausted, being in like New Hampshire, I was exhausted then, and I was like like a week to 2 weeks in,
Mhm.
and being on those trails, like it is dangerous. So knowing where I was when I was like finishing up the trail,
Mhm.
um, I think it would be definitely personally for me a little sketchier.
Mhm. Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense. Do you do anything self-care wise while you're on the trail during all this? Do you do yoga at night before you chill for a little bit? Do you make sure you're drinking a
No,
gallon of water? What's kind of like the self-care routine?
no, the self-care, when I finish at night, it's stretching for 7 minutes. And then we always wash the feet. So my crew, who I owe like a big part of this FK2 to, they'll wash my feet, and we'll kind of prep them for the next day, by just like putting on like lotions and stuff, and making sure they're, healing as much as they
Dry.
can before I have to do everything over again the next day. Um, but yeah, it's just stretching for 7 minutes, and then eating as fast as I can, getting my feet ready, and then getting to bed. I think like sleep is such a precious thing for people who do these FKTs.
Mhm.
And it's just, all I wanted was to sleep. And so like just getting as much as that as possible.
How long were your sleep schedules for each night?
Yeah, it was like on average, it came out to like 5 hours a
Okay.
night.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And then you'd get
Yeah.
right up in the morning, eat some food, drink some coffee, and hit the road again or trail.
Yeah, I actually did a coffee hiatus because I wanted to use caffeine as like a tool. So
Mhm.
if I'm like exhausted one day, it's like being able to like drink some coffee,
And actually
or
get the
like maybe
stimulus.
a caffeine pill. Yeah, it's not gonna bring me to baseline. It's gonna
Mhm.
like, you know, it's gonna really be a optimal tool to get my brain moving and to like wake up a little more. I remember when I was in New Hampshire coming down from, oh, what was it? Galehead Hut with my pacer Scott, and I was like so exhausted. It was like really cold and wet, and I had taken a nap on like a mossy rock for like a minute or so, and I just could not wake up. I was so exhausted, and Scott was just being such a trooper. And I was like, Scott, do you think I should take like one of these caffeine pills I have? And he was like, absolutely. I think we're at that point where
Mhm.
caffeine would be like beneficial. And so I took one, and we both laugh about it now, but as like maybe 3 minutes later, it was kind of funny how fast it hit. And maybe it was like that placebo effect. But as soon as like I took the pill, pretty much I was like, So Scott, what's your favorite movie? What kind of music do you like? Oh, I like this movie, and I like this movie because of this reason. He was
He's
laughing
like,
to
oh
himself.
my God, no more caffeine pills. Shut this girl up.
Yeah, because the caffeine pills, I only had a 200 milligram caffeine pill.
Oh, wow.
Going from like zero caffeine daily to like 200 is like,
Uh-huh.
pretty epic experience. But yeah, so caffeine was really a tool for me. So in the mornings, that looked like just, having Rascal, my crew chief, she would feed me, hand feed me. I would prep my feet by like throwing some Leuko tape on them and like throwing my socks take a while to get on because my feet are so sore and they're very sensitive and I use toe socks to prevent blisters. And so getting the socks and the shoes on took a little bit and then I would do some leg swings and then just get on the trail. And
Did
that
you
was
have
usually
someone with
30
you?
minutes.
30
Do
minutes.
what?
Did you have someone with you on the trail, like at all times, a pacer with you?
Not with me at all times. It was about 20% of the time I was on my own for the entire trail. And I really loved those moments, but I also loved having a pacer with me. It
Right.
was because they could carry my food and my water. And so they would also keep track of the time that it passed that last time I ate. So they would keep a track of that. I didn't have to think about like when was the last time I ate. Oftentimes like time just blurs together
Mhm.
and the brain fog is real heavy during these things. So they would keep track of that, which was really helpful.
What were some of the best food that you had that you're like, oh my God, yes, this is what I needed?
Oh man. Yeah, like food just became a job and
Right.
like movement was my existence and that was just like life. Like food, I didn't really crave a lot. Like there was times I craved like Chick-fil-A or like a beer, but oftentimes I just ate whatever was handed to me. I guess the best thing that was like this is gonna give me a lot of energy. I remember like eating cottage cheese. I'm not a big cottage cheese fan, but like the fat in that, I think it's fat, would just like, I just felt like it was what I needed
Mhm.
since my body, it wasn't like, I actually did really well in nutrition, and women tend to do better in keeping fats on
Mhm.
them than men do in these long endurance efforts.
Right.
So like, I didn't feel like I was really like depleted in any way, but I felt like the cottage cheese was like necessary whatever day that was. And my mom like got the cottage cheese out. I was like, what are you doing? I'm not eating.
That does sound pretty. Like I love cottage cheese, but I can't imagine doing that after like
Yeah.
a
I was
thousand
like,
miles on a trail.
yeah, I was like, I'm not eating that. And then I ate it. I was like, oh, dang, I know this is going to be good for me.
That's actually hilarious because I actually released a podcast yesterday where I was talking about a new report that just came out that was published saying that women for breakfast for performance and weight loss, but obviously for this example would be for performance, do better off of a high fat meal. So you literally
Yeah.
just solidified that without even realizing it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I had some great people who were preparing my food and keeping track of my fats, my proteins, my calories. Um, and they were just they're helping prep food.
Mhm.
So it was like Amy and Steve. And then when they went away for about a week, we had Fresh Grounds come in and then my friend Flipper. And so they prepped a lot of food and kept track of my macros and really thankful for that. I did have like an idea of what I wanted to do for food. I knew I wanted like high fat, high
Mhm.
protein, but I didn't really know what that looked like. And they kind of took control. And I lost weight, but I didn't look like, I looked healthy and I looked fit.
Mhm.
And I asked pacers who knew me before, they would come in, friends who would come in before, who knew me before would come in to the FKT and pace me. And I've asked them like, how do I look? Tell me honestly, do I look like I'm, wasting away? And they always said that I looked pretty healthy, which was really encouraging.
That's awesome. Is there any point during the 40 days where you're like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this? And
No,
if so, like any kind of brick walls, how did you push through that?
yeah, I mean, it's such a big FKT that, I didn't allow myself to ever think I was going to get the overall FKT. I kind of I had a good inkling I could get some sort of FKT. So The overall FKT at the time was 41 days and change. The southbound FKT was 44, and the women's FKT was 46 days. So I knew like I could possibly get solo or women's, but I knew it would take a lot of the team and I to get that overall FKT. So we just every day we just worked through issues. We worked through the day and try to make it the best day we could. Um, and so by the time we were kind of sort of nearing the end, like it became a possibility, but I didn't really allow myself to think I was going to get the FKT until 3 miles before the end.
Oh, wow.
Cause anything could happen during these things. Like in races, like I've been passed with a quarter mile left in a 50K race. So it's, it's like anything could happen.
Right.
It's not done until it's done. And I knew like with the way, I was falling on trail. I oftentimes fell very violently on trail. I didn't want to get my hopes up and then like 10 miles before the end, like break my kneecap and won't be able to like move. So by the time I got to 3 miles, I was like, okay, like I can at least crawl the 3 miles
Uh-huh.
in a good amount of time until the end. So I knew that was a possibility. But like as far as like brick walls go in general, like I never wanted to quit. I just like had a lot of doubts about my abilities and like if I could hit 56 to 60 miles a day. Like I
Mhm.
didn't know if that was possible, but every day I was just proving it to myself. And it was like also centering myself on the moment was really important. Looking to the future has never been good for me. Like with
Mhm.
the first time in 2017 when I thru hiked, that wasn't like looking to the future, like the fear of the future and the fear of the unknown was not beneficial for me. And I knew that. And so I tried to stay in the moment as much as possible and make that mile the best mile. Obviously, doubts would creep in, and luckily I had a good crew around me who would like help counter any of those doubts. But I think it just looked like honestly like staying in the moment as best as you could.
What did celebration look like once you got to that finish line?
It was like very much like all of us celebrating together. It was like that team that had come out and helped throughout the attempt. Some
Mhm.
of them, like my mom and Rascal, were there the entire time for every moment from day one to day 40. And
Which
then
I
I
bet it
had
was probably just as emotional for your mom as it was for you, if not more.
oh, absolutely. I definitely view these FKTs as a team effort. Like without them, it would not be possible. Like I would
Mhm.
not be able to do what I did without their help. So, I mean, it's much of their FKT than it is mine. And,
Mhm.
they were sleep deprived too. They had to drive to like, on average, I think it was like 6 road crossings and provide me with food and water. And also Rascal paced me for a lot of it too. So it's as much of their FKT than it is mine. And so, yeah, very emotional for her. Everyone has some sort of tear in their eye, happy or, sad it's over, or something like that. And it was just like celebration with the team and just like paying paying homage to where it was due, like with the Pacers and with the crew and
Mhm.
just for the entire effort and like thanking the trail as well for providing such a great experience.
Mhm.
So it lasted for it was like 11:53 when I finished, and I think we left like within 45 minutes. We were just hanging out up there for a bit, and then we got back to the cabin at 2 a.m. Took showers, slept, and then the next day, the entire crew and I we were just like kind of on and off, sleeping and
Uh-huh.
hanging out, talking, eating, and celebration just looked like um, a lot of team time.
How did it feel? Like you hear this a lot with marathon runners or any kind of thing that you're training for a long period of time. You have the anticipation of the event, the anticipation, and then you get through it and then it's over. And there's almost a depression after because you're like, now what do I do? Now what's the game plan? Did you or are you, because you're still very new off of all of this, going through that? And if so, what's the game plan moving forward?
Yeah, I definitely experienced a lot of post-trail depression for the first 2 weeks after finishing. Like to go through such a meaningful experience with friends and with family. Every day you have a goal and you're either achieving it or you're not. It's an intense experience, and day in and day out, it's just like, I mean, for 40 days, it's like very intense, very focused. When you finish, like purpose, there's not a lot of purpose there anymore. It looks like a lot of relaxing and trying to recover the best you can, which is very abstract. You have a clear goal on the AT, but like this abstract goal of recovery and just listening to your body is like, there's no like check mark with this. As you know, as this conversation is going on, I'm very like much a goal oriented person, and I don't have that. And I think it's more than that too. I think it's like missing the trail and missing being in nature every day. I mean, it does something, nature in general does something for people's mental health, a very positive thing. It's it studies have shown spending time in nature is just so good for your mental health. And going from that to like, obviously I try to spend time outdoors, but it's different than spending literally probably like 20 hours outdoors. It's a lot different.
Sure.
So I've been dealing with that for the first 2 weeks. And then, the last couple weeks I've been doing a lot of podcasts. I've been talking a lot to media. And today I kind of had this like thought. I've enjoyed every podcast, every conversation I've had. They're all different. And I think it's been enjoyable because I've been able to relive the trail, and I've also been able to process a lot. I think I've been able to process like the experience kind of rapidly in a way that maybe some people who don't do as many podcasts or like media um what wouldn't be able to do. I think I'm very much a verbal processor. So like through these podcasts and through talking with people about the experience, I think I've been able to like really process it. And at first with the media, with the attention, it was overwhelming. And I was overall happy that women in endurance was getting a lot of eyes, women in the sport
Yeah,
because
thanks
of
to
the
you
FK.
and Courtney DeWalter and a lot of
Yeah.
women out there now.
Yeah.
Jennifer, I
So
mean,
Jasmine Paris, yeah. I mean, it's I'm lucky to be part of that, but at the same time, selfishly, it was like very overwhelming. But as I've like gotten used to it, I've realized pretty much today, I was like, this is, helping me a lot process this experience that's so abstract.
that's amazing. I love that.
Yeah.
That's really cool. My last serious question, well, I guess I have two last serious questions because I know that we got to wrap up here in just a second, is now that you were able to get the fastest time, men or women, what does that mean to you? What does this whole experience, if you could sum it up in like one sentence, mean to you?
Oh, I think it's um a big honor. I've been so lucky to have a lot of mentors, but also like a lot of role models, like women in endurance sports, who've like inspired me to go for like a goal like this. And I hope that, the team and I are an inspiration to other young women or girls or like really any person. I hope we do inspire and encourage. And I think it's a great honor to like hold that title.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I know that you were bringing awareness and asking for you were donating to Girls on the Run, right?
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
have you involved in that? And I did want to do a shout out because my niece actually did Girls on the Run several years ago, and and I was her runner with her for her 5K at the end. So it's such a organization that I love too. So
Yeah.
how can people kind of help donate to the cause or find out more about you so that they could also put in?
Yeah. So on Instagram, I'm on Instagram at Tara Dower, Tara Dower, Dower. And on there's a link to my website that's also a link to the Girls on the Run page. And I just got an email from somebody. I hit $50,000 yesterday,
Wow.
and so exciting. Yeah, it's really, really exciting. And Ultra's going to give about, I think they're giving about $44,000 also on top of that. So I'm almost, I think I'm at the point where I'm going to close it down. And I don't know, like if
Oh, you're
closing it
so
down.
close to 100 then.
Yeah, I know. I'm so close to 100, but also with, as we were talking about, like with the hurricane relief, me and my friend are trying to get, we're trying to like raise money to help with relief efforts in Western Carolina. So I feel like, 100,000 would be great, but I think like I've I think that's an incredible goal. Like the first goal was 20,000. So to go from 20 to 50 and then like with ultra, doing an extra like 44,000 on top of that is really encouraging. So I feel like the impact there, I mean, it's all good. And now like I think I'm trying to focus more on like those relief efforts. Like we said, it's just like those areas are so dear to some people and the communities are just like decimated. And then I think that's like a huge need right now to raise money for them.
Yeah. Well, please keep me updated once you
Yeah.
figure out exactly what you're going to be doing, because that's
Yeah.
something that my husband and I are also trying to help with
Yeah.
where we can. And there's so many organizations
Yeah.
that you just don't know about. We want to make sure that we're always donating to the ones that are actually helping the community. So please let us know
Yeah.
what you end up doing.
We actually just started it, but my friend, I'm promoting it, but she is an artist out of Athens, Georgia, and she took a picture while she was pacing me through like I think it was the last like 2 days. She took a picture of me running through some rhododendron, and she actually made a print from it, and it's a really cool print that she's selling. And 50% of those proceeds are going to beloved Asheville, which is just doing a lot of work in Asheville in that community. So if anyone wants to buy that print, like it's a really neat print, but it also is going to a really neat organization.
Fantastic. I love it. Well, Tara, thank you
Yeah.
so much for hanging out with me. You already gave a shout out to Instagram, and you said on your Instagram, Tara.Dower is also the link to your website and everything too, which she's
Yeah.
got awesome YouTube videos. You have some great information on your website. So definitely go check that out. So thank you again so much. I'm glad that I get to be just a little bit of something that provides you to get your thoughts out and
Oh
process.
yeah, no, I thought that like right before our podcast too. I was like, this is like really good. This is helping me process a
Yeah.
lot of things that I need to process.
It's like a diary, but you just get to it's a verbal diary that you get to have.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
I
Well,
love it.
great.
Well,
Thank
thank
you
you
so
so
much.
much.
Yeah, I'll talk to you later.
Sounds good.
What'd you guys think? Tara's pretty cool, right? She's super chill to talk to, very interesting of a lady. And to think that our bodies are capable of doing something insane like that, it just blows my mind. And she's an inspiration. Between her and talking to Rosie recently, who is doing 100 milers, it's really made me question the things that I've said in my past that I've never done. If you guys missed it, this past Friday, I actually talk about how one of my new goals is I've decided I do want to run a 100 miler. And it's because these strong, crazy women that are doing incredible things and showing us how strong our bodies are, it makes me go, you know what? Maybe I can do this. Maybe I want to do this to prove to myself that I'm capable of hard things. So I'm excited to share that journey with you guys so that you don't miss out on future episodes. And while I share my own personal journey as I come back to becoming a runner, actually did run 3 miles this week. What? Make sure to subscribe to the podcast, follow along whether you're listening to this on a podcast platform or you're watching this on YouTube. Make sure if you're on YouTube, give the video a thumbs up. If you yourself want to break plateaus, become the strongest version of you, and become better than you ever thought imaginable of what you think you're capable of doing, head over to fitwomensweekly.com. Learn more about Fit Women's Weekly Live and my training program, especially the Ignite 30, which is 4-week training challenges that I put on. We're actually just starting one right now, but there will be a new one in December you don't want to miss out on. So head over there right now, fitwomensweekly.com. I'll have all the show notes down below with all the links. Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon. Bye.